Hi, fourth graders. Today's lesson is on comparing fractions with different denominators. So just a quick review for fractions. We remember that the number in the top is the numerator and the number in the bottom is the denominator. And we've already learned a couple of tricks if we're comparing fractions that have the same number in the denominator down here. Then we know that we just have to pick the one that has the largest numerator. And we know it's the opposite if we're comparing fractions that have the same number in the top or the numerator, then we just have to pick the fraction that has the smaller number in the denominator to be the greatest. So those are a little bit easier because there's a trick involved. But when we see two fractions that have different numerators and denominators from each other, it makes it a little bit more tricky. So of course, one strategy is you could draw. You could draw these out, you could draw your fraction bars, but we still wouldn't know for sure because drawings, especially in the more complicated fractions, can sometimes mess up. So today what we're going to be practicing is changing the denominators so that they're the same as each other. And remember that this is called common denominators. So I'm looking here, I have an 8 and a 4. And if you remember in my class, right away we think, do we have to change one of these fractions or both of these fractions? I think that we can just change one. Do you think that if we just change the fraction that has a 4 in it to an 8, then we don't have to change the one that has an 8 in it because it'll already be the same? So let's look. How can we change the 4 to an 8? And what you're thinking about is what can I multiply the 4 by to get to an 8? Remember, we always multiply by 1, or we call it our magic 1. And in fractions, a 1 is a fraction that has the same number on the top and the bottom. And this is just how we've learned to organize when we write a magic 1. Okay, and we know that the answer, what we're trying to get to over here is an 8, right? We want to have a fraction that has the same denominator as this one over here. Okay, so 4 times what equals 8? 4 times 2 equals 8. And this number has to be a 2, otherwise I wouldn't be multiplying it by 1. The only fractions that are equal to 1 have the same number in the top and the bottom. So then I have to also multiply 2 times 2, and I will get a 4. So now instead of comparing 6/8 and 2/4, I'm comparing 6/8 and 4/8. And of course that's much easier because now that I have the same number in the denominator, I know that I just have to look at the numerators and find the one that has the greatest number. Obviously 6 is greater than 4, so I'm going to put my symbol that way. So that's how you change the denominator to common denominators so that you can compare fractions.